Hi, my name's Gregg Wallick. I'm the president of a company called Best Roofing down here in Fort Lauderdale. Um, I want to share with you today a tactic that I use that helps me be able to predict the future. I've got a simple little formula that if you follow it, you're going to be able to know what the world's going to look like 90 days, 180 days out, and be able to prepare for that.
Okay, so here we are. Let's start with how to predict revenue. First thing is you always got to be quoting. Never stop quoting work. You're going to be out there networking and quoting on a regular basis, because if you stop or slow down, you're going to find a gap in the future. You need to understand what's in your pipeline, what's on the street, and most important, you got to understand when is a decision going to be made. And last, you need to know what your selling cycle is. What's the average time from when you submit your proposal till you actually receive a contract, and how many contracts are you going to get based on how many you submit. So let's start. Here's a little simple graph that we use at Best Roofing that really tracks our bidding activity. So here we are. We're in the in May, and you can see here that we bid about $13,500,000. 54 bids were put out. In 2016, we were 52 bids, about $12 million. So I'm really fanatical making sure that we track our bidding activity. When it comes to our pipeline, and I'm showing you big picture here. Every one of these projects that are bid here, we've got 1,437 proposals that have been submitted to clients that are on the street that a decision has yet to be made on. That's $167 million plus worth of stuff out there. Now, what we like to do with our pipeline is we like to rank it based on when a decision is going to be made. So what we call when a decision is going to be made, if somebody says, I'm getting ready to make a buying decision, we call that a hot. Or if they say, I'm getting ready to make a buying decision, it's going to be you, we call that a contract to be signed. So these right in here, this is where the action is. This is where stuff is, contracts are getting ready to happen. Then we have about 530 proposals, bids, that are in what we call the warm category. That means that they are 6 months out. So we've asked the client, when do you think you're going to make a buying decision? And they've told us about 6 months out. So we're tracking those, and we have a neat little system on when to follow up on those. And then we've got over here when somebody says, you know what, Mr. Wallick, we're not going to make a decision probably for a year, and we call that an active. And we've got 333 actives out there, about $75 million worth of proposals that we've put together that a decision's not going to be made for a year. But you know what? We've done all the work, so we want to keep an eye on that. Next, we want to look at our closing ratio. Now, there's a lot of different ways to look at closing ratio. The way that we have found to be most effective is over the trailing 12 months, last 365 days, there has been 287 decisions made. And of those 287 decisions, which was about $67 million worth of decisions, 91 of those decisions came to us, or about 31%, almost 32% of the decisions came to us. If we looked at it on a dollar basis, 29 million, or about 43% of those decisions came to us. So I've got a closing ratio based on what we've bid. Now, there's a lot of stuff that decisions haven't been made on, and that's stuff that's in our pipeline. Okay, so I want you to get your calculator out. I want to show you this simple little formula that I use that helps me predict the future. We've got our pipeline, which is when we take the contracts to be signed in our HOTS, we come to a little over 30 million in the decision time. Then we take our closing ratio, and that's 43.28%. We multiply our pipeline by our closing ratio, and here's we do a lot of goal setting. We've got a goal of $4,405,000 worth of contracts we want to get each month. So in April we fell a little short. We did really well in May. In June of this year, we came in a little bit under, but our quota was at 13 million, and look at this. Our contracts that we secured were exactly at 13 million. So let's go back to our little calculation here, and let's look at 30 million plus in decision time. Multiply that times our closing ratio, we come to 13 million. So the numbers, we were 1% off on that. But you know what? I can predict time and time again, every quarter, I know what's going to happen with our revenue securing.
All right, I've just shared with you my secret weapon. To have the ability to know what the market's doing and how much work I've got coming in, and I know it pretty much to within about 5% every quarter. If you always keep your bidding activity going at a constant level, or throttle it up or throttle it back. Right now I'm throttling it back a little bit because you know what? We got more work than we can do, and it's getting hard as can be to find people. So, you know, when you know what kind of bidding activity it's going to take for you to close a certain amount of work, know what your pipeline is. Make sure you work that pipeline. I call it scrubbing the pipeline. Get in there, know when the decisions are going to be made. Know what your selling cycle is. What's the average time that it takes for a project to close from the time you submit a proposal until you actually get the ink on the contract? And then know what that closing ratio is. And that closing ratio, there's a lot of ways that people look at closing ratios. I like to look at it over a 1-year period only on what decisions were made. So, hey, take this knowledge. This is powerful stuff, and go out there and do great. Thank you.